It's mail time. Do you think we could play the Blues Clues theme? Would I be allowed to play that or say something like that? Anyways, it's mail time. Doesn't matter. We're back for another week of Avs mailbag questions. We're settling into the offseason here. We've got a Stanley Cup final matchup that's set, but we're moving on. We're moving on to the offseason. We're heading towards the draft. We're heading towards free agency, and your guys' questions are starting to gear that way. So let's get into them. Lots of decisions looming for the Colorado Avalanche this season, starting with what our first question is about here. What does Mikko Rantanen's next contract look like, and when do they sign it? Look, he's definitely getting a raise. He's getting a little bit of a raise over what he's at now, which is right around 9.5 per year. You're going to see a raise on that. He'll be pushing into 10 million plus. But you have to keep in mind, Mikko Rantanen. Nathan MacKinnon is already at 12.6. I'm not imagining that Mikko Rantanen is going to go past that. So somewhere between where Mikko Rantanen is now and where Nathan MacKinnon currently sits, I imagine this is a deal that they're going to have a little bit of urgency to get done. Maybe before the season starts. That's what the Avs would absolutely like. Mikko Rantanen obviously has a little bit of control in this situation. I think the Avs want to get this done as soon as possible. It's a big piece that'll dictate what it is they can do in the future. They're going to want to get Mikko Rantanen locked up for as long as possible, as soon as possible. Do you think the Avs can insert young guys to help with cap constraints? Malinsky, Kovalenko, I think those two right there in particular, yes. Absolutely count on that. I was talking with Megan Angley from DNVR this morning about a guy like Jean-Luc Foudy. I know the organization is really high on him. They'd like to see a guy like that get a chance, but it's a matter of how does he show up to camp? Does he have an NHL caliber camp? Can he maybe fill out a little bit more on the size side of things? I think the first two that we named there that are named in the question, Sam Malinsky, Nikolai Kovalenko, I would say are all but slam dunks to be on the roster, assuming their camps match the expectation, right? I'm assuming those two guys will be on the roster and maybe look for a guy like Jean-Luc Foudy, possibly Oscar Olausson pushing for a spot as well. Could you see the Avs trading for a lower AAV center like Scott Lawton or Morgan Frost and experimenting with Colton playing more on the wing? Right now, no. Probably not, to be honest. Now, if we get into the season and Ross Colton starts to struggle a bit, maybe that would be an option for them. But I really think Jared Bednar liked what he got out of Ross Colton this year in that 3C position. I think with the line with Ross Colton centering, Logan O'Connor, Miles Wood really turned in some good results. I think the Avs are going to try to go back to that. You feel good about your center depth right now with Casey Middlestat, Nathan MacKinnon, and then Ross Colton. I like that for your top nine. I think the Avs do as well. I don't see them trying to make any moves, barring something that you can't say no to falling into your lap. I think they're comfortable with Ross Colton skating at 3C. Be honest. How come Nate is never in social stuff throughout the year from media day? Does he just say, no, I'm not doing that, or is he just not asked at this point? Also, why does he hardly come out onto the ice for 3 stars unless he's first? The social media stuff. I think it's maybe a little bit of a combination of the two guesses there. Look, Nathan MacKinnon, he's a great guy. We don't get to know these guys necessarily, every single day in their day-to-day lives, but the little bit we get to know Nate, he's a great guy. He's got a great personality. He's intense. When he's at the rink, he is dialed in. He's there to work. Strap the work boots on and put in the sweat and the blood and all that stuff. He's not really there looking to do all kinds of extracurriculars. They'll get him involved on some stuff. He's usually heavily involved in the puppy days. When they bring puppies into the locker room, look for Nathan MacKinnon content. But no, that's just not something that really... He'll do it if he's asked, but he does. He's kind of there to work, and I think the social media team knows that. As far as the 3 stars thing, I don't really have an answer for you. I imagine it's something kind of the same. Hey, I'm here for business. I'm going to start, my recovery process, all that stuff. I don't really have a good answer for you on that. To be honest, I don't really get to watch the 3 stars presentation that much. We're already down waiting to get into the locker room. So really, I don't see it that much. I rely on you nice folks to tell me who goes out on the ice and who doesn't. Do you think the Avs have given Gabe Landeskog a deadline date now? It's been 2 years. No, absolutely not. 100%. They are letting him ride this out in the way that he feels best, most comfortable. Chris McFarland told us after the season as much. He said Gabriel Landeskog has earned the right to try to come back at his own pace. I do think, look, I think the rubber is meeting the road this season one way or the other. Everything about his recovery timeline projections say he should be back this season. Gabriel Landeskog told us, he told me in particular, he was expecting to be back sometime between September and, I don't know, the beginning of April. That's the entire regular season if you're not keeping track at home. So he feels confident he'll be back at some point this upcoming season. If we either get to the point where he does return and the level of play has way dropped off, or if he is starting to come to the realization that he can't come back this season, and that would maybe mean beyond, I think there's going to be some different decisions being made. But no, the Avs are not telling him, you have to let us know by this day if you're coming back or not. Partially because there's nothing really they can do. There is no deadline date to set outside of buying out a contract you wouldn't want to buy out. And by the way, you're not allowed to buy out if the player's injured. And you can't even really trade it if he's injured, barring him going on the long-term injured reserve and everyone kind of knowing that contract's on the shelf. The Avs really don't have any options. Their only option is to wait and see if Gabe Landeskog can get back. But like I said, if he and the team are starting to realize it's not going to happen this year, that might spell trouble for it ever being able to happen. Is it possible for the Avs to bring Kadri back? Is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Are they going to do it? That would maybe be the most floored I could be with a move they would make this summer. Well, that's not entirely true, but you know what I'm saying. The Avs made their move last season to bring in Casey Mittelstadt. They gave up a lot to do so by moving on from Bowen Byram. Casey Mittelstadt is the long-term solution at 2C. We should all be expecting Casey Mittelstadt to ride shotgun, playing behind Nathan MacKinnon for the next 8 years at least. Casey Mittelstadt is a solution at 2C. We all love Nazem Kadri. He was great for the Avs, helped bring a Stanley Cup back to Denver, was a key part in that. The money that he's being paid versus the level of production that he's bringing now, especially at his age. Again, with all due respect to our boy Naz, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for the Avs to try to bring him back unless it was in a couple years and you're bringing him back as a 3C at a 50% retained type thing. Other than that, it doesn't really make any sense, especially not for this summer. All right, last one here, definitely not least. Wildest move the Avs could make this offseason that's feasible. I'm going to go really wild. And here's why I think it might actually be feasible, folks. It all depends on Val Nichushkin. If you're stuck with the Val Nichushkin contract, there's nothing that's feasible, especially anything wild. I mean, barring you making a crazy trade, trading Mikko Rantanen, which isn't going to happen. To me, the craziest move they can make, if they found a way out from underneath the Val Nichushkin contract, which I think they're going to try, would be to pursue Mitch Marner. Again, we said wildest, right? That's what we said? The wildest thing they could do? I think trying to pursue Mitch Marner, if you get out from underneath the Val Nichushkin contract, would be absolutely wild, but something that the Avs have shown they're going to kick tires on. If there's a player that they think makes them better, this management group has shown they are going to pursue it. If Mitch Marner is truly on the block this summer, if the Avs were suddenly able to move on from Val Nichushkin and free up that space, I think they would kick tires and just see what it would cost to get a move like that done. So that's the wildest move that I think the Avs could make that I think isn't completely unrealistic. All right, folks, that's all we got for you this week. Another mailbag. We'll be right back at it next week. We'll have Stanley Cup Finals going on, so send your questions about that. We're heading closer and closer towards the draft, free agency, all that good stuff. Make sure you guys are getting your questions in right here on Guerrilla Sports. You can also send them to me over on my Twitter, @JesseMontaño_. That's all we got. Thanks for hanging out, guys.